Hello, everybody. My name is Carter Holland. Thanks for tuning into the What Really Happened podcast again. Once again, I have a good friend of mine, Matt Long, um, who gave us some
Hey
great,
guys.
yeah. So, man, who gave us some great content last time. So hopefully, keep talk about some UFC talk. Matt, you just got a fresh cut, looking good, dude. Like the haircut.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Carter. Man, it feels good to be back again.
Yeah, man. Last time we talked, we had the crazy news of what happened with Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. That kind of stuff went down last time we spoke. So, um, have you processed it enough yet since the last time we talked?
No, I still can't believe that Leon Edwards is the new welterweight champion. It still hasn't hit me, man.
I don't think it still hasn't hit me either. It just feels like I don't know. It's so crazy to me. I'm still trying to process it to you a little bit in my head. I'm like, the welterweight champion. That's Kamaru. Like it's not Kamaru Usman anymore. It's Leon Edwards. But that's crazy. But that was in the past, But now there's a pay per view coming up in the future. But before we dive into UFC 280 next month, I kind of seen you something on Instagram yesterday. I saw you something on in the DM talking about how possibly Kevin Holland retired. Kind of it's crazy news, and it's crazy because I think not Kamaru Usman, excuse me, Kevin Holland, he fought in the same card as Kamaru Usman that last fight. No. What did he fight the last fight? It was a catch weight fight, right? Against Nate Diaz,
Uh,
Nate Diaz card.
yeah, he was in the Nate Diaz card.
And that
I
was
mean,
all
he
crazy.
fought Chimaev, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy pay per view too. I remember watching that one too. And Nate, what do you think? First off, I want to get your take. What do you think about the whole Kevin Holland situation?
I hope it's not true. I really hope Kevin Holland does stay in the UFC because I really like the guy, especially when he was talking during fights, which was cracking me up. It was pretty funny. It's like he was just having fun out there, and like I just hope we have Kevin Holland still in the UFC. I mean, he's just fun to watch, and like he's definitely got a good personality as well.
Yeah, I kind of think so too. He's one of those people who isn't scared to talk or anything like that, as you can see with his last fight in the catchweight fight. But he's one of those people too. I think are just so talented too. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but I think he's kind of he's somewhat, well, not somewhat, but I guess he's somewhat. I guess you could say that young for UFC, and he's like he wasn't been fighting super duper long, has he?
I I don't think he has, to be honest. He looks young.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't remember. He's not like Cowboy Cerrone fighting until he's like 80 years old or anything like that. But it's crazy. I hope it's not true either because I think I literally was telling you and I was like I literally open up Instagram and that's the first thing I see is that Kevin Holland, a picture of Kevin Holland, it said just retired. And I was just like, that came out of nowhere. That's like a big news thing that just broke out. I was like, I didn't hear anything of him possibly retiring. I don't know if you did either, but it's just all of a sudden like I open up Instagram and it says possibly retired or something like that, and I was like, I did Matt hear something? I don't know because I felt like you're one of the few people, if not the only person I go to, like who's actually like a legit insider of all MMA. So I'm like, did you hear something? And then we kind of broke it down, but did you hear anything at all?
No, it came out of nowhere. Like just when you sent me down like in the DM, like I was shocked. Like I still can't even get over Jose Aldo retiring.
I know that's Jose Aldo. He's just another phenomenal. I kind of came out of nowhere too. But yeah, what do you think about Jose retiring?
I mean, it's just tough. I felt like if he would have beat Morab Devasweli or however you pronounce his last name,
Mhm.
I think if he would have won that, he would have been next in line for the title. And like one fight away from a title and you lose, like that's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think it's just heartbreaking because like I've never seen anybody so close to a title shot and retire like right before. I never, if it's happened before, I've never really heard of it unless Josie's the first one. Like he was like right there, he was super close to winning a title, or not winning a title, but at least getting that opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah, so to I hope Kevin Holland, I hope that's not true either because losing two UFC, where Josie Aldo is at, and where Kevin Holland's going to be if he continues to fight. It feels like those are going to be two great losses in the UFC. You know, that just two phenomenal athletes at the top of their game just gone. You know, kind of like Khabib a little bit retiring too. Is like a guy who's at the top of his game, and all of a sudden he retires on top. I'm like, what? That's kind of crazy to me,
I
at
think it
least.
was because of his dad.
Yeah,
Didn't want to fight without his dad because his dad was always in his corner.
yeah. I still remember him beating Justin Gaethje in his last fight. That was like another crazy fight too, and him just breaking down. It's such an emotional thing too. Watching it back every so often, I just like, oh man, it's so sad, you know. And then yeah, Kevin Holland breaking news. I don't know if it's breaking news, but I'm not necessarily the one that's breaking it. It's already came out, but yeah, so that's crazy. I want to get your thoughts on that on the top of the podcast, but um, kind of talk about Khabib a little bit. There is someone who Khabib has fought who is not retired, and that is kind of pivot a little bit to Conor McGregor. McGregor, Mystic Mac, whatever you want to call him. He is going to make his return. Do you know when he's going to return at all or no?
I'm predicting it's 2023, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Last time he fought was against Dustin Poirier, right?
Yeah.
When he hurt himself.
Yeah.
It was a kind of crazy match too. I remember watching that and it was crazy. I was like, I was one of those things. I didn't watch. I was out of town for that fight, that card, but I remember. I think someone was watching. I think I want to say my brother or someone was watching it, and he texted me. He's like, "Hey, did you watch that?" I'm like, "Did you watch this? What happened?" I'm like, "Didn't know what he was talking about." I'm like, "No, what happened?" He's like, "Connor broke his leg." I'm like, "Connor who?" Because I didn't want to believe it was Conor McGregor, you know. So when they said that Connor was going to be out for as long as he did, that's kind of crazy. Well, what were you thinking when he broke his got injured?
Um, as a big Conor McGregor fan, like I didn't want to believe it. Like I was on my knees, like just wondering what just happened. And then like I'm not gonna lie, I nearly teared up, man, because like a legend in the sport like that breaks his leg, it's kind of like a big setback. Kind of like what happened to Chris Weidman. Like I didn't want to believe that leg break either. The
Yeah,
same leg break as Anderson Silva, like the exact leg break, and it was just devastating to watch.
it was really devastating because it feels like like you said, like Connor, he was one of those people like Anderson Silva and all those people who were at the top of their game just in a match, just had a freak incident and broke their leg. It's like wasn't able to process like Connor, like because Connor and Dustin already had they fought prior years ago for the first time,
Yeah.
and Connor won that fight because it felt like Dustin, he's a great fighter. He was a great fighter then, but he's wasn't near what he is like now.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I had to think. You may think I don't know if you think differently or not, but um, and they fought again, and Dustin won. But I think people were kind of, if I remember right, people were kind of saying people were saying Dustin was kind of a fluke thing that he won, and they fought a third time, right? If I'm correct on this. Am I remembering this right?
Yes.
And then Connor came back and they fought a third time, and that's when Connor broke his leg, and I was like, man, the trilogy and this happens, this is how it ends. Like, you gotta be kidding me, kind of thing. But yeah, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden, people were talking about his return. About six potential people, like some potential people, Connor could face when he comes back. If you're Dana White, okay, I'll put you in a situation. I'll put you on the spot. If you're Dana White and you're in the war room with your matchmakers, who are some names that you're throwing out to potentially fight Connor next?
Well, um, with the list that they made, I wouldn't pick Alexander Volkanovski or Patty the Batty.
Mm-mm.
Those two are out. Jorge Masvidal would be a good fight. I think he would be good fighting Tony Ferguson. Michael Chandler would be a good one. And I wouldn't think Justin Gaethje, even though Justin Gaethje keeps talking so much about Conor McGregor. I
Mm-hmm.
think Conor and Charles Oliveira would probably be a good fight. But Conor needs to watch out for Charles striking. Charles has some pretty good striking, even though that he's known for his grappling game. He's got some tremendous striking ability. And then I would say maybe Dan Hooker, like a tune-up fight. Dan Hooker.
Yeah. think that'd be a good fight. Hold on, I think someone's coming. My sister's walking. I'm sorry. You gotta edit this part of the podcast out. But I think we kind of saw that with Khabib when we saw a grappler fight against someone like Connor, who um someone who was a good striker and Connor, and we saw someone come and fight out someone who's like a good wrestler like Khabib is, and I think Dana White or not, excuse me, Joe Rogan, sorry, Joe Rogan, or DC may have said that like that's what happens when you fight someone who like who Connor who fights someone who's a wrestler. It's like Connor's expecting to be taken down, with a shot or something like that, and all of a sudden, that's what they have. It's what Connor did in the early rounds. It's like with someone who is, goes shot in the first round, and all of a sudden the second round, Khabib throws a punch and almost knocks him down. And I think Joe's like, that's what happens. Like you get so flustered with his wrestling that you forget his power in his hands too. And that's what I kind of want to think too. Is like if you fight someone who has a wrestling like with Chandler or something like that. I think someone who has great, grappling. I will kind of wonder how Connor's going to do in those kind of fights like that.
Yeah, like you got to practice your wrestling too, just in case, man. Because like if you get taken down, like you got to be prepared to wrestle.
Yeah. Do you think Connor's been the same since Khabib or no? Or do you think he may have still the same Conor McGregor?
I thought he was gonna get back on track after his win against Cowboy Cerrone, and then like he was winning that fight against Dustin Poirier in the second fight until those leg kicks were compromising his shin, of course, and like he couldn't move at all when he was against the cage. Like he was trying to dodge all the punches that Dustin Poirier was throwing in the second round, but it didn't work out for him. Like he was just covering up, and then next thing you know, Dustin gets him with one good shot, and Connor like stumbles back, and then Dustin ends up finishing the fight, sadly.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I think I kind of thought the same thing too after the Cowboy fight, because I remember watching that and I was like, hopefully after, because that was just it was like a quick like between excuse me, for Cowboy and Connor. I feel like with that fight it could go really either way. I really thought before going into that match, because I believe Connor did what he did was knock him out, but early in the first round he knocked him out, or not knocked him out, but he stopped. Like the ref stopped it in the first round to say he didn't knock him out, but no, and I think Herb Dean stopped the match in the first round. But the thing is though, Connor, if you're Connor going to that match, you gotta strike early and hopefully you win that match, which he did. But if you're Cowboy, on the other hand, I was kind of thinking this. I was thinking like it could go either way, because if Cowboy goes in there and wrestles him, it could go all 5 rounds too. Because Connor at the time, people were talking about how not that it's poor, but not how great Connor's wrestling game or grappling game wasn't great at that time. I don't think, not like it is now. I don't think, because he's had time to like work on it and hone that craft. But I believe had Cowboy gone in there nicely prepared and like planned on wrestling him or taking him down to the ground, it could have gone further had he gone, done that. But Herb Dean stopped it, in the first round. So it went in favor of Connor. So just one of those things, like it really could have gone either way for me. And I would have liked either way's decision,
Yeah, and it had something to do with the shoulder strikes as well when that fight was happening.
Yeah, because I remember at the very beginning of the match, I think they were in the clinch and they came up, and I think Connor threw in I think like his left shoulder, he threw him some shoulders or whatever in the clinch. And like same thing we saw with I think one of the last fights we had where his like Cowboy broke his nose. I don't know if he broke it, but there was quite a bit of blood coming out of Cowboy's nose. And once your nose gets broken or messed up and there's like tons of blood just spewing out, that's where your cardio goes out of whack, because you can't breathe in. And once you start mouth breathing early, especially in the first round, that's where you're kind of in trouble. You're kind of up crap creek without a paddle. It's like you got nowhere to go, because it feels like, especially against Conor McGregor, it feels like you have to be on your A game Just that's where it happened. That's where it all went down. I think for Cowboy. That's what I think.
Yeah, and then the head kick that struck Cowboy
Yeah,
and had him all wobbly against the cage. That's when all the damage happened.
yeah, for sure. I think that's when I think he kicked him. He said it was a head kick. So after that, they got to the clinch. They were kind of like in like kind of like circling each other, and all of a sudden there's a head kick from Connor, who's by far still, even I think today, is one of the best kickboxers or strikers in the game. Still, I think today. Next up and coming guy I would put him next to, who's great. I think he still has room to get better, but he's still phenomenal now. Is Sean O'Malley? Is he delivered like one of those? I see a lot of the Conor McGregor. I see a lot of Conor McGregor and Sigurd Sean. I don't know why. I don't know what about it. And it's like there's a lot of Son or Connor and Son. If that makes sense. Did I say that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like Connor delivered one of those high, head kicks, as you said, and that's where Connor, like, I think Cowboy kind of stuttered, and then went to the cage, and Connor, too many seeds in this, too many seeds in this fight. Connor went to the ground and just finished him off. There's a point of no return there.
Yes. Sean O'Malley, I mean, yeah, some people are comparing him to the next McGregor, even Paddy Pimblett, just a bunch of rising stars that are upcoming. They always like trying to like give them the hype or like hype up the upcomers that are like rising stars and stuff. Sean O'Malley and Paddy Pimblett are two of those stars that are on the rise.
Yeah. And since we're kind of talking about it real quick, I thought I'd ask you a quick. Do you think it's unfair or fair to say that like people are like comparing like the whole comparison, like, oh, Sugar Sean's the next Connor or Patty the Batty's the next Connor? Do you think that's fair to the fighters like Sugar Sean or Patty, or do you think there's fighters out there who are like, no, I want to make my own way. I don't want to be the next. No, with all due respect, I don't want to be the next Connor. I want to be the next me. Do you think that's a lot of that going on, or do you think they like the comparison?
I think it's the media and the fans that are trying to push that into people's like path to greatness. Like Sean O'Malley, I think he's just trying to do what he's just trying to do, like win fights and of course do weird celebrations that he does after he finishes them. Mm-hmm. Paddy Pimblett, like he's all about energy to the crowd. Like I don't think he really cares about being the next McGregor. Like he just wants to fight, of course, and eat, of course. That dude likes to chow down on some food for sure.
He does, man. If he's not careful, could be the next light heavyweight champ before we know it. Just kidding. No, but yeah, it feels like you're right. I think it's a lot of the media who are just trying to make those comparisons. I think, but regardless, I think I still like their styles. I think their own individual styles of like Connor, Patty the Batty, and I was about to say just in Conor McGregor, but it's not. It's Patty the Batty and Sugar Sean, because it feels like those two are just like one of the best. I think striker. Like when I mean striking, I mean not just punching, but I think kickboxing, kicking to the body, lower body. They can destroy you with anything, it seems like. And kind of talk about excuse me, Sugar Sean. I was going to say Patty the Batty, but he's not fighting this next card. But speaking of Sugar Sean, he is fighting the next UFC 280. I want to talk to you about. He's fighting against Peter Yan. And I want to get your reaction on that fight. What do you think of let's kind of take me through your process of what you're thinking about that fight.
Well, it's the first time that Sean O'Malley is gonna be fighting in Abu Dhabi. But like, man, this is a big step up from the rankings as well. You go from fighting Pedro Munoz, who was like number 10 or number 9 guy in the bantamweight division, all the way down to number 1 against Pierre. That is insane. But Dana White went along with it because someone told him like let the fight happen, And Dana White was like, okay, like we'll put it on the card.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's like, so I don't know. That's Dana White saying that. I don't know. It's like so crazy. It feels like every fight that fast few fights I think that Son has been in, they've been like tests, if you want to call them that. And it feels
Mm-hmm.
like Son has knocked him out of the park every time, you know? Unfortunately, his last fight was ended in a no contest. And unfortunately, and I think it was his last fight, if I remember correctly, and it was just one of those things where I was like, man, due to an eye poke, there was a no contest, and we got no definitive answer. So it felt like Connor Son was one of those people who was like he was actually like, even though they were like you said, quote test, I feel like they were really like he was really dominating that last match that ended up in a no contest. The match was really his, I think, in his favor, and I can only imagine what he's going to do in this next fight because I feel like he didn't get a definitive like win or lose, and so I kind of want to see how he's going to go into how he's going to prepare for this next fight because I can only imagine, it's going to be crazy once he walks back out there, him and his Skittles hair.
Imagine if he does beat Pierre. Do you know how crazy that's going to be? He could
Yeah.
be the next title shot guy, and he can also be a main event fighter now instead of being just on the main card in general. He could be on the main event. He's been on the co-main once with Cheeto Vera. We already know how that happened.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't really been legit finished. Sean O'Malley only got finished because of his leg. His leg or ankle got messed up against Cheeto Vera. They're gonna call it a TKO regardless. But he has not actually been knocked out or legit finished or even submitted in that case.
Yeah, his resume really speaks for itself. It feels like what I like about Son, even though like you said, he's never been finished or submitted or knocked out, whatever, knocked down, whatever. Really, it just feels like he still technically calls himself undefeated.
Yes.
If you ever notice, I kind of laugh at it every time I see it. Whenever Bruce Buffer announces Son, when they do the in ring introductions, I'm trying to pull up the fight card now on UFC.com, but I'm trying to see his record, but whatever his record is right now, he'll, for example, I think, do you know his record at the top of your head or not, or no?
That is like 15-1, but like he'll hold the 0
Yeah,
after.
that's what I love. That's what I was gonna get to. Every time Bruce Buffer goes 15-1, Sugar Son on that, he holds up his 0 like to the crowd. Like that's what I love about Son. He's got that personality and swagger. He's got like all the confidence in the world. He's got uber confidence oozing out of him, and he's not scared at all. That's what I love about Son. He's gonna go in there, and I think I don't know if this is gonna be. If he wins this match, I really could be a main event player or co-main at least. Hopefully co-main for sure. If not main event, I think he's that good.
Yeah, I think he's good too. He's been a co-main once. Haven't seen him in a main event at all, but like he's a very popular fighter, and he's been on the pay-per-view cards for a reason.
Yeah.
Nothing but pay-per-view events. Hasn't been on a fight night in the UFC, Apex, or just a regular fight night in general. He's always on the pay-per-view events
Yeah, for sure.
for a reason.
Yeah, and he's really taking the badminton weight division by storm, I think too. And kind of speaking about that division, we got another title fight on the UFC 280 in that division with TJ Dillashaw going in as a contender. Um, what do you think about that fight? Like kind of that division. Do you think the winner of Sugar Sean's fight, and Peter, do you think the winner of that goes on to fight the winner of TJ Dillashaw's fight?
Quite possibly. I I'm hoping for TJ Dillashaw because I'm still not high on Aljamain Sterling, especially with the last fight with Piotr. I think Piotr beat Aljamain Sterling in their second fight. We already know what happened in the first fight, illegal knee. But
Yeah.
second one, I think Piotr won that second fight.
I think so too. It was obvious. I think so too. And man, I'm kind of pulling for DJ Dillashaw because Dillashaw due to the fact that like, he, can you imagine in a main event somewhere like TJ Dillashaw versus Sugar Sean for the title?
That'd be
Like
crazy.
that's like a main event that I'd buy 12 times out of 10. I would have ordered that yesterday. I think that's something I think that needs to happen. I could see that definitely happening one day, hopefully. If not, I like to see Sugar Sean with his hand raised and Bruce Buffer saying, in your new, badminton win or whatever, uh, champion. It's just crazy. I could see that happening one day. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
I think Sugar Sean versus, if he wins UFC 280 against Peter, I could see. I think Son versus any contender could be a really great fight, a really good main event.
Yeah, like that whole division is stacked. We just recently watched fight night happen in that card between Sanhagen and what was it, Song Yadong.
Yeah,
Um, that was gonna be a good main event, and then just a nasty cut. You gotta watch out for those cuts too because
yeah,
they can end great fights in an instant.
they can for sure. I remember just that one fight across the guy's forehead, and now it's just like that's so crazy. Like there's some stuff I can like stand, but they can, like you said, they can end great fights early, like due to a doctor, just coming like, hey, let me see that, and then automatically just they wave it off. Like, why are you kidding? Like that's kind of one of those things. Like, but you gotta obviously take the fighter's health into consideration too. So, um, but yeah,
Yeah.
kind of talk about. Those are the couple fights that I'm looking for. Is there any other fights that you're looking for that are on the card so far?
On the pay per view card,
Yeah, the main card. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the main event. To be
me
honest
too.
with you, Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev.
Hmm. What are you looking forward to in that fight? Okay, let me back up. Before I ask you that. Let me ask you this. Um, do you think this is going to be a quick turnaround for Charles because he just fought Nate, didn't he?
He didn't fight Nate. He
Oh,
fought
no, that's Frank
Justin.
Ferguson. I'm sorry. Different. Sorry. So, what do you think about the main event? I should ask you that. Sorry. I got my people confused. I always get those two. I don't know why in my head, Charles Oliveira and Tony Ferguson. I get those two confused. Don't ask me why. Can't tell you. But let me ask you, what are you looking forward to in this fight?
Um, just how Islam approaches Charles Oliveira, because Charles Oliveira is a good grappler himself. Islam Makhachev is known for his grappling for sure, coached by who else? Khabib,
Yeah.
and Islam has always had that like wrestling ability that Khabib uh, had when he was in the UFC. They actually trained together,
Mhm.
so like now when you're fighting a guy that has a great grappling ability like Charles Oliveira, like what are you gonna do? Are you gonna try to mix it up? Are you gonna strike? Are you gonna try to take Charles down on the first move that you do? Just like I don't know. I think he'll mix it up. So who knows? But Charles Oliveira can do both as well. He's got hands as well. We seen the way they put out Michael Chandler,
Mhm.
put out Justin Gaethje, submitted Dustin Poirier, nearly submitted Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
I mean, both of those guys are just monsters, and there's a reason why they're the biggest uh, fight out of the main card. That's why they're the main event. There's a reason for that as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I think with Khabib being your coach, if you're looking at it as Islam, like on the Islam side, I think if you're looking at as like Khabib being your coach, it feels like you're getting like the knowledge, straight from God in a way. Because it feels like
Yeah,
you get that straight shot in a way. It feels like because Khabib, I had mentioned earlier, I kind of alluded to earlier, he defeated Justin Gaethje in his last match in a title defense. And but at the same time, though, Charles Oliveira, like you just mentioned, just he almost submitted Tony, to beat Justin Gaethje. So it's like, how do you go into this prepared? It's like your opponent beat one of your other opponents as a coach. You know, it's like you don't know. Like it's really hard. I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to this fight just for a lot of reasons because it feels like the what I love about fighting in UFC in general as a spectator is like the unknown, like what you're walking into the unknown. It's like for this specific reason, I was like why I watch it because like you can go into it and it feels like, well, yeah, because this guy's a great wrestler, but you know what? Your opponent, he's a great wrestler too. He's got great defense against wrestling, and he could do X Y Z, or this guy's a good fighter or a striker, or this guy's good karate or whatever. Blah blah blah. Like, the list can go on and on. It's like I don't know. That's just, I'm getting excited just talking about it. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Either side, it's going to be a great fight. I think overall. Is there? Trying to think. Is there any other fights that are happening? I'm trying to. Let me see if I can pull it up. What do you think?
Dariush and Gamrot.
Oh yeah, that's a
I
good one.
think that's gonna be a grappling fest though.
I think so too. I think that's going to be just another. Yeah, like you said. Um, is there any prelims fights that I'm trying to think? Is there anybody on the prelims or the main card that you think of right now that stick out to you?
Prelims. The only fight I really know is uh Bilal Muhammad, which I think he's a boring fighter anyway. He's fighting Sean Brady.
Oh yeah, I just saw that one too. I think you said he's a boring fighter.
I think he's a boring fighter. Yes,
And
it's
why is
not
that?
that exciting, really.
Can I ask why? Just
Uh,
because.
if you if you watch his fight with Vicente Luque, the
Mhm.
second fight, dude was just like backing up the whole time, and then like of course, like he's just waiting for his like shot to like get Vicente, but he was like running around like most of the fight
Mhm.
until Vicente got tired. But like I just don't see like any excitement with Bilal Muhammad. And then before his fight with Vicente Luque, he fought Damian Maya, or I think that's his name. Damian Maya, that kind of looks like Ben Askren, but he's
Mhm.
Brazilian.
Yeah,
Yeah, like that was like a slugfest too. Like it, or not a slugfest, a snorefest. So I don't see anything about Bilal Muhammad.
yeah, for sure. I think I don't know. Neither I don't know. It's gonna be crazy. Like he's. I've really never heard much about me personally. Never heard a whole lot about him. So I'm kind of looking forward to see how that fight goes in the prelims. Cause I always try to watch the prelims too as part of the main card, But I gotta take that fight. I don't know. I've heard him a couple of times, but I don't think watched a whole lot of his fights before. But yeah, so when you brought up Ben Askren, I forgot. I totally my mind just totally just went clear. Ben Askren. I don't know why. I can't remember the last time I heard of Ben Askren's name before. um, so I think the last time I heard him, Ben Askren's name was like when he fought one of the the Paul brothers. I think
Ugh.
that's the last time I heard Ben Askren's name. When he was like a scuttlerbag, and that's it.
When he got knocked out again.
Yeah. I think the last time before the boxing match was when Jorge Masvidal knocked him out the flying knee. Then he made his rounds that way. Yeah. 5 seconds, the quickest fight ever. What do you
I
think about
remember watching that live too.
what do you think about that fight going into? Like what do you I mean? I don't know if you can really call it a fight. Really one move and that's it, and that's what ended it. But what do you think? What do you think going into it? Do you remember any of that? Like okay, like I'm ready for this fight. Was there any of that?
Just watching the build up of the fight, like you know how they do that little intro before the walkouts.
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, oh wow, they really hate each other. I was like, let's see how this goes. So I'm watching. I'm taking a sip out of my water. I'm at Buffalo Wild Wings, by the way, and then like I turn around for 1 second, and the next thing you know, Ben Askren is down on the freaking canvas, stiff as a board. I was like, "What happened? What happened? Did he like throw a punch or something, and he just fell over?" And then I'm
Yeah.
looking at the replay. I was like, "Oh, that's what happened. A flying knee. He timed it."
It's so crazy. I that's how I felt with like on the opposite end with the Leon Edwards fight a little bit with Kamaru Usman because there was a preseason Cowboys game on, and I literally had like the laptop recording this podcast off of. I had the fights on there watching it, when I had the Cowboys preseason game on. The preseason game just ended. Cowboys won, and they're kind of showing the highlights. So if my computer's my laptop like this, right? My laptop, I'm sitting on my couch. I've been watching this whole fight, the fight between Leon Edwards. That's had my whole attention. I had the TV on mute. I think we talked about this last time, maybe I don't remember. But I was looking. Well, I was watching them fight with Leon Edwards, and the whole match never look up for a split second to watch the bit of the highlights, the Cowboys game. Look back down, Kamaru Usman's on the ground. The same way, I'm like, I heard the kick. I thought it was just like I didn't know what it was, to be honest. I didn't think it was like a knockout kick. I just looked down,
Yeah.
like, what happened? And then all of a sudden, I stood. I'm like, did Kamaru? I was trying to process. I was in shock. I'm like, no way, Kamaru Usman just lost like that. I wasn't even watching it, and I watched the replay too. I'm like, that's crazy. But the same thing with Ben Askren. I'm like, that was different though, because that was just a short, like one move done kind of thing. And I'm like, you're gotta be kidding me! Like one move knocked him
Did you see
out.
the commentators on their the reaction when Usman went down?
Oh yeah, just Joe Rogan and anything like that in DC and John Anik.
Yeah.
Yeah, just crazy. Yeah, I love their reactions after a knockout.
Yeah, John Anik was no way. I was like, what? I was
I
like,
know.
holy cow.
When you hear Joe Rogan going, "Oh," or whatever out loud, gasping, and you hear
Yeah.
DC say yell something and John Anik, I'm like, something big just happened. Joe Rogan's is the first voice I hear. I don't know why. It feels like Joe is always the first one I hear. And all of a sudden followed by John Anik. And that's like all I need to hear. I'm like, okay, I have to run into the room. Like, what did this happen? I have to
He's
watch
the most exciting.
Yeah, I think that's what I kind of look forward. I really look forward to the match first and foremost, but I kind of look forward towards the reactions after a knockout from the reaction from Joe and all the rest of the commentators.
Yeah, that's my favorite commentator group too is John Anik, Joe Rogan for sure, and Daniel Cormier.
Yeah, but that's gotta be mine too. I feel like that's like the standard. I feel like they're the standard for UFC commentary. It feels like
Ooh, yeah.
they can't be matched at all. Because I think the last time I'm trying to remember, I think it feels like anybody else. I felt like that is commentating. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like I listen to it, but I'm not really like hearing it. It feels like, yeah, they're there. I know that's part of the job. But it feels like when Joe and DC and Johnny Nick are there, it feels like they're actual like you picked out 3 fans from the crowd and like, hey, here's headphones, put them on and talk. That's what I get. That's what it feels like. They're legit fans. Like they're like fans at heart. They're just there to commentate.
Yes.
That's what I felt like. But I don't know. That's pretty. I can't wait. I mean, the only other person I somewhat, if DC's not there or Joe's not there, the only person I think I may listen to is possibly Michael Bisping. But that's it.
Yes, there you go.
And that's maybe it. What do you think? Like, is there any other people who, if I know that's our favorite podcast is John and Joe and DC, but is there anybody else that comes into play that you may that you may take?
Easily Michael Bisping. I think he's a great commentator, especially in the overseas pay-per-view cards, the Singapore one. Bisping was there. Just like all the overseas UFC pay-per-view cards, it seems like Joe Rogan never shows up. It's usually, of course, John Anik, Daniel Cormier, Michael Bisping for sure, and then sometimes Paul Felder.
Yeah, it feels like that's another good one, like you said, overseas and anything like that. But it feels like with Michael Bisping, it feels like when Joe and all the normal crews there. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like Michael Bisping's the really one I'm really like listening to because it feels like he's one of those people too who he also has that he has he used to be a former fighter himself. It feels like
Yes.
he's got that. He's like DC. It's like DC when DC speaks, it feels like you're hearing like a guy who was a former 2-time champion in 2 different weight classes in light heavyweight and heavyweight division. But when Michael Bisping too, it feels like he's got that experience too. It's like he knows what he's talking about too. When DC and Michael Bisping speak, I'm like, okay, I want to hear those guys like when the insider speak. I don't know why. That's me. I don't know why. I just feel like I've always had that like that. I don't know. It's crazy too because Michael. I don't know if probably dragging this out too long. I don't know, but what I like about Michael Bisping too, what I like about him is his toughness too as a fighter, because he went in there with only one I don't even people know this, but he has a fake eye, and he actually fought in the
Yes.
UFC. And like, I don't know if people are listening to this can fathom that you're at the
Well,
highest level of MMA with one eye, and you're dominating. You know, it's just
yes.
crazy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to mess up. I was
Oh, you're good.
checking. Do you know what time it is?
3:16. You need to head out.
3:16? Okay, I'm
Yeah.
so good.
Okay, cool. We'll get out here. We got here soon, but yeah, it got some good fights coming up, dude. Hopefully, John, Joe, and DC will be out there killing it. Hopefully, if not,
Yeah,
go ahead.
oh, sorry. They'll
Yeah.
probably be at the Adesanya Pereira
Yeah.
card in New York City for sure.
Is that 281?
Yes,
Yeah,
we gotta talk about that one for sure.
yeah, we will. We'll come back on and talk about UFC 281s. But real quick, so I'm really looking forward to results on it, because we tried doing this before, and you called it exactly, but I wasn't able to upload the podcast because you got all the picks right almost for that pay-per-view. But for Sugar Sean, I don't put too much pressure on you, hopefully. But to close this out, but for Sugar Sean and for Charles Oliveira, who's walking out of as victors?
I'm
280.
I'm gonna be confident and pick Charles Oliveira. I think he's just too much for Islam. Charles Oliveira will find a way to pick Islam apart.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Is it going to be by submission, you think, or do you think it's going to go like by decision or knockout or submission or what?
I think by knockout.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I could see any of them, to be honest with you. But yeah, okay, last one, and we'll head out. What about Sugar Sean? Sugar Sean and Peter.
Oh, that's a tough one. I could see it go to distance too. But I think maybe if Sean O'Malley's careful with like Piotr Jan's leg kicks, I think Sean O'Malley could have the chance to win, especially with the reach advantage.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. I could see. Yeah, he said reach advantage. I think that would be a good way too. But yeah, okay. So you got some good picks. Hopefully this comes to fruition, because you're right exactly almost verbatim last time. We just weren't able to. I wasn't able to upload the podcast on my due to my eyesight. But Matt, thanks again for joining us or joining me. We're gonna talk about UFC 281 for sure when it comes time to it. But just like you, I'll be watching UFC 280. So thanks for joining, man. Can't wait to watch UFC 280.
Thank you for having me, Carter, and hook 'em horns.
Yeah, hook 'em horns too. Oh yeah, they can play tomorrow too. So I hopefully that'll be another good game too. Real quick before we wrap up, how much is UT beating Tech by?
I say by 10. Hook 'em
Okay.
horn, and like I know Texas Tech does the horns down, and I got a message. It's guns down over here. There's no firepower.
Heck yeah, guns down all the way. I'm a big UT fan too. So UT by 10, and got great UFC fight coming up. So can't wait. Thanks again, Matt.
Thank you, brother.
Peace, man. Have a good day.
Peace. You too.